Hey guys, it's Claudia here. Just a quick disclaimer. Some of you may have noticed the scratchy scratchy noises in the background of some of our episodes. No, you are not imagining things. We currently share a recording room with my 4 ferrets, and apparently they very much want to be involved in the podcast process. So really sorry about that, but shout out to Busby, Lilith, Peach and Truffle, makers of the scratchy scratchy noises. Sorry guys, thanks.
What's up, witches?
I'm Claudia.
And I'm Jess.
And welcome to True Crime Coven.
So this week we are doing ghost stories again. Back on the ghost stories. Are you ready?
Born ready. I feel like we need to be in a dark room, but my boyfriend loves lights.
We do actually have 1, 2, 3...
And then fairy lights.
And then fairy lights.
And an LED mouse mat because my boyfriend...
I mean, I guess you could count the computer as a light as well. It's pretty bright. I also keep looking at the camera and I know it's not on, but it's kind of creeping me out. This story was sent in by my lovely friend Chris. Mm-hmm. When I was about 9 years old, I lived with my parents in Pucklechurch. My mum was a nurse, and when she worked a night shift, she would often get home about 8:30 in the morning. My dad normally left for work about 5 a.m, so there would often be an overlap between my dad leaving for work and my mum getting home from work. My brother and my sister are a lot older than me, and they would often be there so I wasn't home alone. On this occasion, my dad came to wake me up when he was leaving for work and asked me if I wanted to go downstairs and sit on the sofa instead so I could drift off to sleep watching the TV. And I thought, oh, yeah, that sounds like a nice idea. So I went downstairs onto the sofa. Dad gave me the normal, don't answer the door, blah, 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 and he went off to work. I could hear my brother walking around upstairs, so I drifted off to sleep watching the telly while I was sitting down on the sofa. As I was drifting in and out of sleep, I was suddenly awoken because I thought I heard a noise, and the noise was coming from upstairs on the landing. And as I looked upstairs, I could see someone bent over looking at me through the gap. And you know the gap between the stairs and the landing? They were looking at me through that. And I thought to myself, why is my brother being so weird and looking at me like he's on his hands and knees, just staring at me? What a weirdo. Anyway, so I was like, oh, he's being weird. So I drifted back to sleep, just waiting for my mum to come home, just watching a bit of telly. So my mum gets home about 8:30 and she asked me how I was. And I said, well, I've been all right, but Tom, who's his brother, it's been a bit weird. Like I could hear him wandering around upstairs, being quite noisy, like kept waking me up. And when I woke up, I could see him staring at me from the top of the stairs, but he wouldn't say anything. He was just staring at me. To which my mum replied, Tom isn't here. I tried to argue for a bit, being like, I saw him, I've heard him, but she told me that Tom was staying at a friend's house that night. So to prove this to me, because I still didn't believe her, we searched the house together. And she was right, Tom wasn't there. I don't know what I saw at the top of the stairs, but I lived in that house for almost 15 years since the incident, and my dad still lives there. None of us have seen anything since.
Oh, so I was staring at him.
No, and he was only 8. Like,
it's the crouched down as well.
I know, and like on the hands and knees, staring at him.
Do not like.
He said he couldn't really see because it was dark, but he was like, I thought it was my brother, so it must have looked human-like.
I know what I've got in my head. It's like a black figure on all fours with like white eyes. Also, like, I know his brother, so I've kind of got like in my head, it's just his brother, but looking like a demon. Like, you know that filter that makes your eyes go black? But in my head, I've also got like the long spidery hands, you know, when the hands like hook over. Ooh. I'm doing actions, not that anyone can see. I can see. I'm enjoying.
You enjoying my deadly claw hands?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. Thank you, Christopher. This story was sent in by my friend Steph. It's actually her dad's story.
Okay.
So, my dad is a little bit skeptical. He doesn't really believe in ghosts or spirits, except for this one encounter. And even to this day, when he tries to talk about the story, he goes very quiet and doesn't really like to go into much detail. He looks kind of terrified and tries to shut it down when he can. When my dad was younger, he lived in a place called Milton Haven in Wales, And one day, him and his friend decided to go on a drive. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't remember the exact month he told me, but it was winter time, so it was just beginning to get dark. They were driving down a country lane, and this lane had high hedges on either side of the road. Obviously, this was making the road darker. As they were driving, they saw 2 figures in the distance. As they got closer, they realised they were 2 women walking in the middle of the road, and they were walking straight towards the moving car. Even though as they were walking there was space for them to move to the side of the road and let the car pass. So as the women weren't moving out of the way of the car, my dad's friend had to swerve to avoid them. This gave my dad and his friend their first good look at these women, which caused them to emergency stop. As they stopped suddenly, it became very, very cold. My dad described it as frozen to the bone. They both looked at each other, almost as if to say, "Did you see that? And did you feel that?" When they looked behind them, the women had disappeared. Whenever I ask my dad about it, the only thing that he tells me is whatever he saw on that day was not human. Him and his friend both described those women as hags. He never expands beyond this, and I can tell it scares him to this day. I actually looked at the definition of a hag just to put it into context, and it's described as an ugly, malicious old woman who practices witchcraft with or without supernatural powers. Hags are often said to be aligned with the devil or the dead. So
Our future?
Yes, that's where we're heading. But she was always like, it's funny how like my dad is never like, they're women, they were hags.
Yeah.
Like apparently he's like very specific on that, like not spirits, not ghosts.
I always
like,
think as well, when there's 2 people who see it, it just solidifies it so much more.
yeah, and the fact that it went really, really cold as well. Like he was like,
Yeah.
they weren't from the living world. They were definitely
Something
like,
else.
yeah, like
Because that's the thing
malevolent
as well.
creatures.
Like, sometimes I do see the whole argument of hallucinations.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like a haunted house. Like there can be carbon monoxide. There can be.
Well, also
all
it's
sorts
like
going on.
where you are. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you're in a haunted house and someone tells you you might see a ghost tonight.
You're more likely to. You're highly
Yeah.
susceptible.
Yeah.
But when there's 2 people, okay, you can get folie à deux, which like the madness of 2.
The fact that he thought he saw it and his friend had to swerve out the way and
All of it.
I do, yeah. So there was like a little additional story to this as well that my friend sent in. This is actually now her granddad, and he has not the same story but kind of a similar story. And it's not on the same road, but it's on a road near where this happened. Like it's in the same small town in Wales. So her granddad was a trucker. So she does also say she doesn't know how much truth is in the story because her granddad has a flair of the dramatics.
Okay.
But apparently he swears by it, and he is like, if I ever tell you one true story in my life, it's this one kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think also the fact that it happened so close to her dad's story is a little bit creepy. Apparently her granddad was driving home one day and saw someone hitchhiking, and apparently he used to pick hitchhikers up a lot. Like it was back in the day where trust everyone, why not? It's a little Welsh village, everyone knows everyone. So anyway, they went to pick up this hitchhiker. He thought it was a bit strange anyway because they were dressed all in Victorian clothing and they had a hood that was covering their face. But he was like, hey, maybe they've just been somewhere. I'll pick them up, do them a favour. They're stranded on the side of the road and it's dark. So let's help this person out. So as he got closer, he pulled in, and as he pulled in, they lifted their head up and he realised that this person had no face. Obviously, he was terrified and drove off without looking back. So yeah, just adds a little bit extra creepiness.
Spooky village in Wales.
Yeah.
I mean, Wales is known to be very spiritual and spooky.
It's a very old country as well, isn't it?
It's very mystical.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah. I think it has a reputation of being wet and rainy, but actually it's a very beautiful country.
Is. And lovely beaches as well. Like if you go
Honestly,
down
if you're going to come to
Swansea.
the UK, don't go to England, go to Wales.
Yeah, Wales and Scotland. I've recently just been to Scotland and it was
I've never been to
insane.
Scotland.
It was so good. So good. And Ireland as well. Yeah, England is the worst place to come to the UK.
And English people are the worst. There's 2 English people.
Even like the little islands off England, like
10 out of 10.
yeah.
English itself, solid 3.
Like when people are like, oh, I want to go to English pub. You do not. I do
love an English pub.
I mean, yeah, I do love an English pub, and it's the first place I want to go. Whenever you go abroad somewhere, and you're like, oh, I just want to go back to an English pub.
In lockdown, I really miss pubs.
I didn't miss people.
No.
I used to live above a pub. But yeah, would you ever pick up a hitchhiker?
I have.
Have you ever hitchhiked?
No, but I've done something really stupid.
Oh god, okay. Not for the podcast, stupid, or?
No, well, I mean, if anything, I can't believe how stupid I was. When I told my mum, she said she had nightmares about it. I was like 20, I want to say like 24. It was after a night out and I decided to leave on my own. Everyone else decided to stay. I just wasn't feeling the night out anymore. It was in a really dodgy part of South East London as well. I was waiting for a bus for ages, wasn't coming. I want to say it was like October time. It was in winter. It was cold and I was wearing inappropriate clothing. Like I had like no tights on. I was waiting for this bus, wasn't coming. I was calling cabs and they like just weren't turning up. And it was like when Ubers were around, but they weren't as prevalent. I was waiting for ages and this like car pulled up with this young guy in it. Yeah. And was like, do you want a lift home? And I had been waiting for like an hour and I got in.
Like, go on then.
And he took me home and he ended up obviously not hurting me. Yeah. And was one of the good ones. But I look back and I'm like, what was I doing? Yeah. Like okay, obviously I didn't feel anything bad against this guy. No. And he didn't try anything. Like, he didn't try and take my number or chat me up. He, like, was telling me about his girlfriend, which obviously doesn't mean anything. No. But he took me home. He was a genuinely nice guy. I gave him, like, I think I gave him a tenner because I was like, I would have paid this for a cab anyway. So, like, here's this for petrol. Oh, bless him. But, like, yeah, I look back and I'm like, what was I doing? Yeah. Never do that. No. PSA, never do that. No. Say no. If they insist, say double no. Yeah, I think if they insist, it's kind of more of a... I don't know what I wasn't even that drunk. I can't even blame it on it. I was so wasted. Like, no. What, Claudia? Yeah. No. I don't know why I did that. I cannot stress enough. Do not do that. Do not do what I did.
Has Jake ever told you about the time one of his friends was struggling with the suitcase and someone insisted that they help them with it? No. It's a really sad, funny, horrific story. Okay. Like, it's a roller coaster of emotions. So she was, I mean, it's not the podcast. It's really irrelevant, but it's really funny. Yeah. I'll keep it short and sweet. Basically, she was dog sitting for someone, and while they were on holiday, the dog passed away. And she was like, shit, I need to, like, get it to a vet or something. But they lived in the centre of London, and she was like, how the fuck do I get this dog to the vet?
How big was it?
I want to say it was like a German Shepherd. It was like quite a big dog. So she decided that the safest way to do it was to look like a tourist and put it in a suitcase. So she stuffed a dead dog into a suitcase, was wheeling it around London, obviously struggling with the suitcase. It's a heavy dog in a suitcase, in a massive suitcase. And someone was like, oh, let me help you with that. And she's like, no, it's fine. Honestly, it's not as bad as it looked. And he's like, no, let me help you. And apparently was like following her down the road and was like, go on, let me. And she was like, fine, fuck it, you can help me. And then he legged it with the suitcase. And she was like, shit. She's like, well, now that guy's going to open a suitcase and just find a dead dog and be like, that crazy bitch is wheeling a dead dog around in a suitcase. But also she's like, I have to explain that to the people that I'm dog sitting for, that their dog died. And then I tried to wheel it to a vet in a suitcase, and now I've lost their dead dog's body and their suitcase. No. But I mean, you would leg it with it and then take it in front. It's not like you went around the corner, opened it up, was like, this is a dead dog, here, have it back. Yeah. Like, oh god. Fucking funny. But horrific. Do you know, like, it's a real
of a movie.
Funny though, like, imagine that happening to you.
I mean, he gets what he deserves, but I just feel sorry for that dog not being laid to rest.
I know, it's like horrific, but it's like, imagine being the guy just being like, yes, mate, great loot, I've got a tourist, like, centre of London, open it up, dead dog. You're like, shit.
And also he must have been like, oh my god, did she kill this dog?
Yeah, do I report her? Like, or do I get caught because I've just stolen a suitcase? Hang on, I also want to hear a hitchhiking story.
Oh, no, there wasn't much.
Oh, you just picked up a hitchhiker?
Yeah, no, I was with my friend Heather in Wales, actually. Oh. And we had our friend Simon with us, and I think because we had our friend Simon with us, we felt safer as two girls.
Yeah.
And there was a guy hitchhiking, and we were like, fuck it, shall we?
Yeah.
So we did, and he was fine. He was just a bit of a drunk old guy.
Oh, fair enough.
We took him
It's
back.
one of those things you're like, you can never tell who it's more unsafe for, the person picking someone up or the person moving.
100% do not recommend hitchhiking or picking up hitchhikers.
Yeah.
I don't know what we were thinking both times. I just want to say that I didn't always make good decisions in my life. This probably isn't even going in the podcast. You absolutely do not need to put it in, Simon. But if it does go in, PSA, do not hitchhike, do not pick up hitchhikers. We've got enough cabs around now.
This story is sent in by another one of my friends, Shani. It's been all my friends this week. I have been harassing my friends for stories, so thank you. When I was about 15, my parents went to their friend's house for the evening, leaving me home alone. I was in my room, lying in bed with the door to my room open. My bedroom is at the back of the house, and my bed was against the opposite wall to the door. So from where I was sitting, I could see out of my room. The landing light was off, but I could see the full landing, including the stairs, from the light in my room. I was sitting there, minding my own business, and I saw a huge, black, shadowy figure walk up the stairs and into the bathroom. At the time, I was absolutely petrified. I thought someone was in my house, so I sprung out of bed, locked my bedroom door, and pressed my ear against it, trying to hear what they were doing. All the while, trying to stay quiet so they didn't hear me. I rang my parents as I was in hysterics. I was crying and shaking and thought there was someone in the house and they were going to try and kill me. They told me to stay where I was and they would come straight home. While I was waiting for them, I tried listening for someone in the house, but I couldn't hear anything. And I hadn't heard anything since they had walked into the bathroom, so I thought to myself, they must still be in there. I decided to try and rationalise what I had seen, as I thought if someone had broken into a house, I'd have to explain what I'd seen to the police. So I was trying to recall everything that I'd seen and couldn't really remember seeing a face or any details or any like specific details that would say, yeah, that's who was in our house. And I'm not even sure if I could identify a person in the lineup. All I can remember, it was a big shadowy figure. Eventually, I built up the courage to open my door as I couldn't explain what I'd seen. As I slowly opened the door, I still couldn't hear anything. And at this point, my parents returned home. We searched the house for this mysterious figure, but we couldn't find anything. We decided to not call the police because the house hadn't been broken into, like the doors were all still locked and none of the windows were broken, nothing was open, and nothing had been taken or moved out of place, so we were kind of like, there's not really anything to call the police about. But it definitely made me question what I'd seen. Later, once I'd calmed down, I settled in bed for the night when I saw my parents wander up to bed. From my room, even with the hall light off, I could still clearly see them, and they didn't look shadowy at all. I could describe every single detail about them. This made me question why I couldn't see anything but a shadowy figure earlier and why I couldn't see any specific details. And even to this day, I still can't explain what I actually saw in my house. Creepy. A lot of stairs stories today.
Yeah,
Creepy things happen on the stairs.
Stair stories, a lot of shadowy. Well, I guess the other person wasn't a shadowy person. The first person,
but in my head, it was,
yeah.
This one I do imagine is literally like an actual shadow.
I wonder what her parents thought. Has she ever spoken to her parents about?
So I don't know what her dad thinks about it, but I know that her mum does believe in spirits and ghosts and stuff, and I know her mum has had quite a few experiences with stuff in the past as well.
We need to get those.
The doll one from last week. Yeah, that's her mum's story. But I think there has been like other things as well. She didn't go into detail about anything else, but yeah, her mum is definitely a firm believer in ghosts and afterlife and spirit world and everything like that.
Yeah, sounds like... I mean, that's the thing as well. I always find it weird when people see things just once in a house.
Yeah. I don't know if they still live in that house or whatever, like, but I know, like, my friend's dad still lives in that house. Like, it's his childhood home and his dad's still never seen anything there. Unless some people are just...
I think kids are definitely more susceptible. I mean, their minds are more open in every way.
Yeah. And also, like, he was drifting in and out to sleep and he was vulnerable, so maybe, like, the spirit showed itself because he was in a more vulnerable state. And again, it's like when you're home alone, do you worry about things more when you're home alone, and something that normally
but then
in
he
the
seemed
day...
pretty relaxed. He was sleeping.
Yeah, true.
I think definitely there's something in kids seeing things, animals seeing things, and elderly people. I've got a few things that I'll tell us all about one day.
Ooh.
But nothing, no, they're not juicy, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But like,
sometimes they don't have to be juicy. It can literally just be like, one time I saw a ghost and then it waved at me and went, all right, mate. And then went,
I'm just imagining from It with the arm now.
Oh.
3 waves with the arm.
3 stories, we got one more story. You can cut that out. That was a terrible theme tune. I'm going to do a little warning on the story because this is another one that my friend recorded himself saying, and then I typed it up. And even as he was saying it and I was typing it up, I was like, shit, son, this is creepy. So, yeah, a little bit maybe more of a warning to Simon. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, I don't think we'll warn the people. Just
yeah, I mean, you knew what you were coming for when you listened to this. Yeah. So this story was sent in by my friend Chris, another one of his stories. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Should we go straight in for it?
Let's go.
When I was about 13 years old, I went to Connecticut with my mum for my cousin's wedding. It was summer when we went, and it was during a heat wave, so I think the coldest it was 30 degrees, and that was at night when it was as cold as it got. So basically, it was boiling. We stayed in my auntie's house, and I was sharing a bed with my mum. In the room, we shared a double bed, and I was on the side nearest the wall. It had a window on it, and then my mum was nearest the door. I have a small OCD thing where before I can fall asleep in any room, especially an unfamiliar room, I have to go around and check that everything is fully closed. That includes the door, any windows, even in the 30-degree heat, I had to keep the window closed. The wardrobe and even the curtains have to be fully closed before I can go to sleep. And I have shared rooms with Chris. And he does do this, and it's very annoying. Although my favourite thing to do is convince Chris that it's haunted. Like, wherever we go, I'm like, did you hear that? Did you see that? Because that's what best friends do. Okay. In the middle of the night, I woke up freezing cold. It wasn't like a normal temperature drop. It was frozen in that room. Like, I could see my breath. The window had fogged up as if it was like snowing outside, cold, like absolute freezing. So I sat up in bed. I was a bit confused. I looked around the room, let my eyes adjust, and I noticed that the wardrobe door was open a bit. So I stared at it for a little bit longer. All my eyes are playing tricks on me. Did the normal rub your eyes when you wake up, and I could see a little girl standing in the wardrobe. Again, it was dark. I'd just woken up, so I stared a little bit longer, thinking, again, my eyes are playing tricks on me, and I realised that there was something strange about this little girl. As I started waking up a bit more and coming around a bit more, I noticed that I could actually see all the clothes in the wardrobe behind her, and I can remember this vividly because there was a bright pink tie behind her head. So obviously I was absolutely terrified, and I buried my head into the back of my mum and eventually managed to fall back asleep. At this point, I'm kind of questioning why he didn't just wake his mum up, but anyway, he went back to sleep. And normally I wake up pretty early, but that day I decided to sleep until 11:30, and I actually only woke up because my cousin came in to wake me up. I said, oh, I'm sorry I overslept, I just didn't have a very good night's sleep, and I explained to him what I'd seen, thinking nothing of it. My cousin suddenly jumped up, ran downstairs shouting for his mum, and she ran up to my room and told me to tell her exactly what I'd seen. So this is his auntie, obviously came running up saying, word for word, I need to know the whole story. And apparently they've had loads of disturbances in their house, only ever minor ones, but very, very frequent. And apparently the room that they were staying in was the most haunted in the house. So he says it used to be my cousin's room, and they kept it as a spare room as none of them could bring themselves to sleep in it. My cousin told me that one night when he was sleeping in that room with his girlfriend, he woke up and there was a massive guy, and he guessed roughly 7 foot tall, leaning over his girlfriend as she slept. So he apparently jumped out of bed and tried to kick the man, but ended up only kicking over a chair. So he slammed the light on, and as soon as he turned the light on, he vanished and there was no one in the room. So I think his auntie might still live in that house. But I'm like, why? Why do you live there for so long?
You can just close that room up.
Yeah, just board her up. I mean, so he did say that they do have disturbances through the whole house, but that it's literally just like things being moved, things being knocked over, like noises.
Things that are like annoying, but they're not terrifying.
Yeah, and also kind of stuff that you could be like, I mean, not in 30-degree heat, but you could be like, oh yeah, that noise is just the wind, or...
But then I sometimes think that the little things are scarier because they show that something is constant.
Yeah, it's like one big shadowy figure, like in the last story, like once is scary, but something
it still can be a hallucination. It still can be something. Yeah. But like things constantly moving, unless you've got cognitive impairment.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm sure I put that there.
Yeah.
And then it's not there, and then you're like, okay, well, maybe I'm going a bit crazy, but if you do it all the time...
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a little bit like, yeah, but apparently that room... A lot of people who stayed in that room have seen things. I feel like I need to get his auntie to send me everything.
Yeah, do it. But just close that room up. I mean, there's nothing creepier than like a room behind a wall.
From what he was saying, I don't think any of these spirits did anything bad.
I don't know. Lean over your girlfriend.
You don't do that with good intentions, but
yeah, like it's not bad. But if someone did that to me on the street, I wouldn't be happy about it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
That's all right.
Thank you to your friends.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna keep
hounding them.
Yeah, keep constantly nagging.
We can't rely on our friends forever. So
no, we cannot. I don't actually have many friends. So.
She's run out. So if you have a ghost story or a case suggestion, email it to us at truecrimecoffinpod@gmail.com.
You can also find us on Twitter at truecrimecoven
or on Instagram at truecrimecovinpod. We are also so thankful for everyone listening. Like, it's a dream come true.
Yeah, thanks to everyone.
And
it's amazing. Yeah. It might just be us.
But that's fine as well.
Thank you for all your support if you are listening.
But if you would like to donate to the podcast at all, you can do so by going to ko-fi.com/truecrimecovinpod. That's ko-fi.com/truecrimecovinpod. Thank you for listening.
Stay spooky!